9 spine-chilling toxic love stories revealed. She thought it was romance until the horror struck. Sarah never imagined her life would turn into a nightmare. Just as she settled into her cozy suburban routine, a shadow loomed over her world. The whispers began softly, like the rustle of autumn leaves. But soon, her life spiraled into terror that clawed at her insides. She was a young mother, alone after the painful divorce, desperately craving companionship. Then came Doug, the charming newcomer who walked into her life like the promise of spring after a long winter. Everything seemed perfect until it was tea. At first, it was just stolen glances and sweet words over coffee with Mrs. Thompson that made her feel seen. The laughter of children playing in the streets, the smell of pumpkin spice wafting through the neighborhood, familiar comforts that lured her into a false sense of security. But soon, something sinister crept in. Pets began disappearing from the neighborhood, one after another, as if they had evaporated into thin air. Sarah brushed it off as pranks, little hollow-s tricks meant to amuse, but deep in her gut, a cold chill stirred. Days turned to nights under Doug's magnetic allure, and she eagerly lost herself in his attention, feeling less like a single mom drowning in her own fears and more like a woman in love. Yet, with each enamored glance into Doug's eyes, the world outside began to darken. Subtle shifts around her, Mrs. Thompson's watchful gaze, the hushed whispers among her neighbors tightened the invisible grip of isolation around her heart. One stormy night, right before Sarah tucked her kids into bed, she overheard Doug arguing in the living room. His voice, usually so soothing, dripped with a venomous intensity she had never heard before. Panic gripped her, and she leaned against the doorframe, heart racing. But sleep deprivation fogged her mind, so she brushed it off and returned to her children, eyes wide but shoulders heavy with exhaustion. "Mommy, there's a man outside," her youngest, Lucy, cried one night, pulling at her sleeve with trembling hands, fear flickering in her eyes like the candlelight illuminating shadows on their walls. It sent a jolt through Sarah. She turned towards the window, heart pounding, but saw nothing. Was it just her child's imagination? Or a reflection of the darkness slowly creeping into their lives? Paranoia began to blur into reality. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fighting disbelief, Sarah dug into Doug's past, an icy dread coursed through her as each revelation fell from her fingertips like brittle autumn leaves. Other women had vanished, ghostly echoes of their lives brushed against her reality. She felt entrapped, sinking deeper as fear loomed ever so closer. One night she found herself waking up in a cold sweat, the echoes of Lucy's cries replaying in her head, harsh reminders that trouble thrived nearby. As she glanced outside, clouds swirling with menacing intent cast shadows that danced like specters across her yard. Doug stood there, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of the storm, as if he were entwined in the very fabric of the dread now enveloping her home. Caught between her longing for connection and the instinct to protect her children, Sarah faced a chilling question: how could her quaint community conceal deeper horrors? The night air thickened with a tension that was almost palpable. She stood paralyzed, the reality of the love she sought quickly unraveling into something monstrous. But in that moment, the flicker of a distant light caught her eye, and her breath hitched. Someone was lurking, just beyond the veil of shadows, intent on unraveling the web of safety she thought she had built. Was Doug a creature of love and warmth, or the very nightmare waiting to swallow her whole? The next day, the sun rose hesitantly, its light washing over the street, trying to coax a sense of normalcy from the chaos. Sarah dragged herself through the morning routine, the kids chattering cheerfully about school while she felt like a ghost haunting her own life. Doug was waiting at the door when they left for the bus, his usual bright smile masking an unsettling darkness that sent shivers down her spine. "Morning, beautiful," he crooned, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. She stiffened, resisting the urge to recoil. There was something brittle about his demeanor, a crack in the facade that made her heart race. Did anyone else notice? Or was she losing her grip on reality? The day dragged on. Moments of laughter with her children felt like fleeting illusions in a landscape of encroaching dread. Insistent whispers followed her at every turn. Mrs. Thompson's glances became more pronounced, her eyes teeming with suspicion. What was being said? Ambiguous shadows flickered around Sarah, blending with the dull ache of apprehension. Finally, after school, she decided to confide in Emily, her closest friend from the neighborhood. They sat in Sarah's living room, the sunlight fading slowly behind a blanket of clouds. Emily listened, concern knitting her brows as Sarah poured out her fears, the creeping unease settling in her bones like frost. "I don't know what to think," Sarah confessed, her voice cracking. "Doug has this charm, but there's something off about him. Like a switch just flips." Emily frowned, her mouth opening to speak, but the doorbell's chime cut her off. Reluctantly, Sarah stood and approached the door, her heart hammering wildly against her chest. "Who is it?" Emily asked, eyeing her with anxiety. "I don't know," Sarah muttered, glancing through the peephole. Outside stood Doug, his expression serene, yet in his eyes lurked an indefinable shadow. She hesitated, fear clawing at her throat. What if he could sense her doubts? What would happen if she turned him away? With shaking hands, she opened the door. "Hey, Doug. What are you doing here?" "I just wanted to check on you," he said, stepping in as if he belonged. "How's my favorite family?" Emily's gaze darted between them, clearly uncomfortable. The tension in the room thickened like boiling water on the verge of bursting into steam. Sarah felt that familiar prickling at the back of her neck, the instinct gnawing at her. "Everything's fine," she said, forcing a smile, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. "Just chatting." Another glance exchanged with Emily, and Sarah knew her friend felt the charged air too. Doug's smile widened, but there was an uncanny chill wrapped around it. It reminded her of the sinister sky days before a storm ripped the heart out of summer. "Good to hear. I was thinking we could have dinner together. Just the three of us." His eyes bore into hers, a possessiveness creeping into his words. Sarah stuttered, panic rising. A dinner felt harmless, yet everything felt wrong. It was as if they were inviting danger into their home, wrapping themselves in a cocoon of vulnerability. Before she could respond, a shriek pierced the air, and Sarah's heart dropped. It was Lucy's voice, frantic and shrill. "Mom! Come quick!" Without a second thought, Sarah sprinted toward the sound, adrenaline pumping through her veins. When she reached the kitchen, her breath hitched sharply in her throat. There stood Lucy, pointing out the window with wild eyes, whispering, "It's him! The man!" Sarah leaned past the curtain, her heart pounding so hard it echoed in her ears. But what she saw shattered her. Doug, smirking knowingly, the shadows swirling around him like living things. "Sarah," he called, soft yet chilling, "come outside. I think it's time I showed you the truth." In that moment, cold dread seeped into her bones. What truth awaited her, and would it pull her deeper into the nightmare she had unwittingly stumbled into? The world outside the window spun around her, colors blending into a nightmarish swirl. Doug's voice, once melodic and warm, now felt like ice running through her veins. The flicker of shadows bent and twisted, mocking her every instinct. "Mom, don't go!" Lucy pleaded, her tiny hands gripping Sarah's arm. The incredible fear in her daughter's eyes ignited something primal in Sarah's heart. "Stay inside, Lucy! Lock the door!" Before she could fully think it through, Sarah pulled away from her daughter's grasp and stepped toward the door. There it was again, that helpless urge to confront the truth, whatever it might be. The air outside was thick, heavy with an ominous weight. Doug stood there casually, as if he hadn't a care in the world, but the way his eyes glinted set every nerve in her body alight. He seemed to pull her in like gravity. She could feel that magnetic force cloaked in unsettling familiarity. "What do you want, Doug?" she asked, her voice a shaky whisper. "I just want to talk," he replied, the sweetness in his tone curdling like milk left in the sun. You need to see things as they are, Sarah. See what? She shot back, anger rising within her. But behind that anger was fear, a fear she couldn't shake off. It slithered through her, threatening to drown her in confusion. The truth about me and you and everything. He stepped closer, and the shadows around him danced like lost souls. No! She took a step back, dread pooling in her stomach. You're scaring me. Am I? He said, tilting his head slightly, his casual demeanor unnatural. I thought fear could make you understand. I think you're just starting to grasp how deep this goes. He raised a finger, pointing at the sky. But look up, Sarah. That darkness in your heart? It's not just me. It's everywhere. You just have to accept it. No, you're wrong. She glanced back at the house, instinct drawing her toward the safety of her children. He laughed, a sound devoid of warmth, echoing into the empty space around them. You can keep running, but I won't let you escape. I know you better than you know yourself. Isn't it time to put those fears to rest? What do you mean? Panic surged as his words sank into her bones. Was he truly saying what she feared? Did he hold some hidden power over her? Let me show you, Sarah. We can be together, united in truth. A twisted smile spread across his face. At that moment, a shiver crawled up her spine. It was as if the ground beneath her feet quaked with the weight of his declaration. The shadows thickened, wrapping around her the deeper her breath came. Mom! Lucy's voice cut through the haze, her small figure silhouetted in the doorway, eyes wide with worry. Please don't listen to him. Doug turned his attention to Lucy, an immediate, electrifying shift in his demeanor. A darkness flickered in those eyes, a predator sizing up prey. Ah, Lucy. You shouldn't be out here. Come join us. His voice dripped with false charm, but it sent a chill straight to Sarah's core. No! Go back inside. She screamed, her pulse hammering wildly. Get away from her. Why deny her a chance to see? After all, you two are so similar. His tone shifted again, seductive yet ominous. Sarah's heart raced, thoughts spiraling helplessly. How did he know? How far did his manipulation reach? I won't let you take her, Sarah shouted. Her hands trembled with helplessness, her breath quickening as Doug took a step forward, shadows flickering dangerously. Why not embrace the love that binds us? It can be beautiful if you let it. He leaned in closer, shadows swirling around him, enveloping her in a suffocating grip. As his face distorted, the true horror began to seep through. She realized she was standing on the edge of a dark cliff, facing a choice that could plunge them all into a bottomless abyss. What would she sacrifice? What was she willing to lose to escape this nightmare? In that moment, a single question ignited her resolve. Was this the love story she wanted, or an unfolding tragedy? The answer hovered like a knife, ready to cut through the fabric of her reality. Would she dare to sever the ties, or would the dread hold her captive? The dusk deepened, and the true horror of Doug's intentions loomed, ready to unveil a chilling reality she couldn't bear to face. The shadows swirled, thrumming with a life of their own, tightening around Sarah like a noose. She heard Lucy's tiny whimper. The sound made her blood run cold. That sound shattered her paralysis. It yanked her thoughts back to what mattered, what was essential. Lucy! She shouted, her voice breaking with desperation. The urging power in Doug's eyes turned to something more sinister, and she could almost feel the darkness ripple across the yard. Stay back, Sarah! Doug demanded, still inching closer, the shadows flooding around him in violent currents. You don't understand what's at stake here. At that moment, clarity pierced through her fear. This was no longer just about her. It was about Lucy, too. What lay beneath Doug's surface was more than their twisted past. It spread like a disease, and Sarah knew it was time to cut it out. With a deep, shuddering breath, she stepped forward, clenching her fists at her sides. Get away from her! The fierceness in her voice surprised even her. She focused on Doug, not letting the panic claw at her throat. I don't care what you want. You will not take her. A wicked grin unfurled across Doug's face. Your defiance is amusing. But you're so blind, Sarah. He pointed a long, thin finger toward Lucy. They'll all find out the truth, eventually. Enough. She took another step forward, instinct kicking in. Rabid thoughts of fight or flight flooded her mind. Why was he doing this? What truth could he possibly expose? Every day since his return had been a lesson in dread, and it was now bubbling over. Mom? Lucy's voice trembled with uncertainty, straining against the backdrop of chaos. She peeked from behind the door, petrified but not willing to leave her mother's side. Shadows billowed, swallowing the warmth of the evening sun, wrapping the moment in an unsettling twilight. Go inside, Sarah yelled, her voice sharp, cutting through the thickening air. She stole another glance at Lucy, desperate to shield her from Doug's influence. A flash of terror crossed her child's face, spiking her resolve. Leave us alone, she shouted, taking another small step forward. You think you hold the reins, Doug? You're wrong. Is that confidence, or just ignorance? His voice dripped with amusement, twisted and terrible. You will see the truth, Sarah. When shadows gather, they'll reveal what you fear the most. He extended his hand, and for a moment, everything stood still. Time hung in the air thick with tension. And then, the world erupted. Lightning crackled across the sky, tearing through the dark clouds, illuminating Doug's grotesque features, the shadows swirling into grotesque shapes around him, almost as if sensing the wrath of storm. With the next thunderclap, it struck her like a punch in the gut. He wasn't just trying to expose some hidden truth. He was gathering power, gathering support from the encroaching darkness, which no longer felt merely metaphorical. Lucy, run! The words flew from her lips like a desperate prayer. But Lucy lingered, eyes adjusting to the shadows surrounding them, still holding on to the doorframe. Mom, I now! Sarah screamed, her heart racing as panic flooded her veins. The sky rumbled ominously, and with it, another burst of frantic energy surged through her. But Doug didn't move, a figure of dread and control. You can't run from your past, Sarah. Or from a future that has already claimed you. His eyes gleamed in the flashes of lightning. As if responding to Doug's malicious challenge, a guttural whisper erupted from the shadows, echoing in the night air, a chorus of vengeful voices promising torment. Then, in an instant, the world spun again. A shift, a tremor in the ground beneath her feet. She took a step back, only to collide with Lucy's small body as the ground tore apart beneath them, dark fissures splitting the earth. Mom! What is happening? Lucy cried, gripping her hand, fear ignited in her blazing eyes. I don't know, Sarah yelled back, looking at Doug, whose laughter thundered through the howling wind. The fabric of their reality twisted tighter, pulling them into uncertain depths. Just a reminder, you think you're fighting for her, but you can't protect her from the darkness in yourself. The shadows loomed larger, blacker, swallowing everything. For a brief moment, as the thunder roared, Sarah felt the chilling embrace of that deep abyss threatening to claim them both. Suddenly, Lucy's eyes glimmered with an unsettling clarity. What if I embrace it instead? She whispered, and Sarah's blood ran cold. What had she created? What line had she crossed? Lucy, no! But even as she reached for her daughter, the darkness surged forward, ready to claim more than Sarah had ever feared. A terrified laugh echoed as the fissure opened wider, threatening to pull them into the shadows. What had she unleashed? And could she save her family before they were lost forever? The ground shook violently, the fissures widening like gaping maws hungry for the light of day. Sarah clutched Lucy's small hand, her heart racing, blood rushing in her ears like an angry river. She could hear Doug's laughter, a cruel echo that entwined with the storm, and it made her spine tingle with dread. Let her go! She screamed, her voice fighting to rise above the cacophony, but the shadows answered, swirling tighter, mocking her defiance. They writhed like serpents, reflecting Doug's power and intent, each coil singing a song of despair. But Sarah, she's already chosen, Doug said smoothly, his tone laced with twisted delight. She's part of this world now. Lucy, please. Sarah's eyes flared with uncertainty. She turned to her daughter, desperation clawing at her throat. You don't have to listen to him. Fight it. You're stronger than this. The shadows caressed Lucy's delicate face like a lover's touch, sending shivers down Sarah's spine. Lucy's gaze hardened, and a hint of something unsettling washed over her features. What if it's not about fighting? What if I could be free? No! Sarah's voice broke. She felt as if she were slipping through the cracks, the ground crumbling beneath her feet, taking with it her only hope, her daughter. Lucy, I love you! Don't let him do this! In the chaos, a flicker of recognition lit Lucy's eyes, a moment of hesitation, but Doug was quick. Love? He scoffed, his voice cutting like a knife. What you call love is merely an illusion. You can't protect her from the darkness she readily embraces. Shut up! Sarah shouted back, stepping toward Doug, pushing back against the rising tide of despair that threatened to engulf them. She had to push him away, to separate his influence from Lucy. Her heart pounded so hard she felt it in her throat. Get away from her! You don't control her! Lightning split the sky again, illuminating the horrific tableau before them. Shadows echoed with whispers, every word setting her teeth on edge, a dark choir stirring ancient fears. A sudden rush of wind lashed around them, and the shadows drew closer, merging together to form horrific images that danced in the glowing aftermath of the lightning. Faces of people Sarah once knew twisted in torment, drawn into Doug's dark grip. Each face spoke to her of forgotten secrets, and long-buried guilt. Look closely, Sarah. They want you to see. Doug mocked, arms wide, inviting her to witness the pain. Betrayal, loss, the cost of your choices. Can you feel the weight of the truth? You are not as innocent as you wish to believe. No! She screamed, as memories flooded back her decisions, the lies she told to shield Lucy from the truth of their past. Each recollection came with its own ghost, clawing to escape the depths of her mind. Lucy's eyes glimmered again, an unreadable expression. Maybe he is right. Stop! The word erupted from Sarah's throat, raw and desperate. She could not lose her daughter to this darkness. The shadows closed in tighter, and the ground quaked beneath them. The truth is always waiting in the shadows, Sarah, Doug taunted, his smile widening. You cannot hide forever, the darkness sees you. Panic surged in her chest. In that moment, she felt the fragile tether of existence threatening to snap. What was Lucy about to embrace? Had she truly lost her grip on her own child? The temperature dropped, her breath crystallizing in the sudden chill as if death itself were approaching. The shadows swarmed, creeping toward her, enveloping her in a thick blanket of dread, and Sarah realized there was something lurking in her own soul, something she had hidden, darkness that fed off fear, and now it threatened to consume everything. Lucy! She shouted, a sound that echoed through the torrent of chaos, but deep down, she felt the terrible truth weighing on her. What if her past couldn't be escaped? What if embracing it was the only way to survive? Desperate clarity pierced through the fog of fear. She had to confront Doug. She had to confront the darkness inside them both before she could bring Lucy back. And as Sarah took a deep breath, preparing to charge toward Doug, the shadows hissed, pulling away, an opening forming in the air like a wound, pulsating with undeniable energy. Are you ready to face what lies beneath? Doug sneered, his eyes glinting wickedly like a predator ready to strike. With each beat of her heart, the storm roared louder, almost as if the universe dared her to make a choice. Could she summon the strength to fight the darkness within herself and save Lucy before it was too late? The ground trembled again, but this time it felt different, charged with an electric desperation. The shadows quaked, and as the world around them spiraled into chaos, Sarah prepared to make her move. What would be unleashed when the truth finally broke free? Sarah locked eyes with Doug, the storm swirling violently around them. The air charged with palpable dread, vibrating with impending doom. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet something deeper drove her forward, a desperate need to reclaim her daughter, a tether to her purest love. Lucy! She choked out, her voice raw with emotion, fighting against the grasp of the shadows. The feeling of genuine despair twisted in her gut, a cold knot tightening until she felt she might shatter completely. "Will you show her the truth, Sarah?" Doug asked, his grin ugly and satisfied, like a wolf watching a lamb wander too close to the den. "Or will you hide in your pretty little lies?" Lightning crashed again, the brightness illuminating the chilling landscape where shadows seemed to breathe, whispering her past failures, her hidden fears, and the mistakes she had buried deep. Sarah's mind raced. She could feel Lucy's uncertain gaze latching onto her, searching for a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. "No! I refuse to let you twist her mind!" Sarah screamed, every ounce of her being igniting in a fierce flame of protectiveness. With a surge of resolve, she charged forward, plunging into the roiling mass of shadows that sought to engulf her. They clawed at her limbs, pulling her back as the memories wrapped around her like chains. Names, faces, guilt, each whisper cut deeper, dulled by the edge of betrayal that sliced through her heart. "Sarah, help me!" Lucy's voice, barely a breath, broke through the tumult. It sounded so small, caught between Doug's mocking laughter and the howling wind swirling like a tempest. Gritting her teeth, Sarah pressed on, eyes sharp and fierce. "I'm coming, Lucy!" she shouted, forcing her way through the oppressive shadows that sought to engulf her whole. She focused on Lucy's bright spirit, her laughter, the way her daughter filled the light of every day with joy. The moment she reached Doug, everything happened in a blur. A cold hand clutched at her heart as he unleashed the darkness within. "You should have never come here, Sarah." The shadows thickened, blurring her vision. For a terrifying second, Sarah felt that the past, the haunting remnants of her choices, swirling like a dark sea, ready to pull her down into the abyss. Names and faces flashed, friends betrayed, love lost, promises abandoned, time stealing everything dear to her. "Face it!" Doug roared, his voice booming through the storm, shaking her resolve. A sudden ice-cold horror washed over her as the darkness accused her, scratching, clawing at the walls she had built around her mind. "Look at them!" he taunted, weaving a tapestry of despair. "Their pain is your doing. You can't escape it." A surge of fury exploded within Sarah, boiling over the crushing weight of his lies. "No!" she screamed, the word erupting like a cannon fire, echoing through the chaos. "You don't own me! You don't own my daughter!" With that declaration, something within her shifted. She felt warmth begin to break through the cold. All at once, the shadows recoiled, and the storm calmed for a breath. She seized the moment, reaching for Lucy. "Come back to me! We can fight this together!" The words rang out, piercing through Doug's laughter. Lucy hesitated. "Mom," her voice trembled as if teetering on the edge of a precipice, facing an uncertain future. "Trust me!" Sarah cried, extending her trembling hand toward her daughter. She saw the flicker of fear in Lucy's eyes, but also a desperate yearning, a yearning for love, for truth. But Doug's laughter surged again, thickening the air with menace. "You really think you can just take her away from me? I gave her the freedom she craved. Strength. Power. What power, Doug?" Sarah shot back, feeling a flicker of hope amid the tension. The power to destroy her soul? For a fleeting moment, the shadows wavered, swirling with doubt at Sarah's words. Laughter faltered, and Doug's face twisted in anger, revealing a flicker of fear. "Let's see just how far the darkness truly reaches," he hissed. The tremors returned, and the ground shook violently beneath them, the fissures yawning wide. "Lucy!" As the shadows crashed against them, Sarah sensed an impending climax, the last desperate push toward reclaiming her daughter. Would she find the strength buried beneath the tide of chaos? And as the fissures widened still more, revealing a chasm of pure darkness, she realized the battle had only just begun. What horrors awaited if she chose to step into the void? The ground trembled, a low growl rumbling like an angry beast beneath their feet. Sarah could sense the chaos rising, shadows writhing like snakes, each one eager to pull her under. She fought against the suffocating despair, dragging herself toward Lucy as the rift threatened to swallow them whole. "Hold on, baby!" I'm almost there. The words broke free, sharp and urgent, dispelling the thick haze of dread that Doug had woven around them. Lucy's expression wavered, torn between embracing the darkness she'd been offered or running back toward the dwindling light of her mother. The chasm behind Doug yawned wider, a void pulling at her little one, enticing her with promises of strength and freedom that felt more like shackles. You don't know what you're doing! Sarah shouted, battling the roaring wind that clawed at her ears, drowning out her voice. He's lying. This isn't freedom. It's a trap. Doug laughed again, that cruel sound echoing through the storm. Isn't it pathetic? You really think you're saving her? You're only holding her back. He raised a hand, summoning the shadows closer, a swirling mass of despair that coiled and lashed at Sarah like angry vipers. No! Sarah cried, pushing through the stinging darkness. Her heart raced and a cold sweat dripped down her spine. Her eyes remained locked on Lucy, the flicker of hope battling against the oppressive weight of fear. The shadows enveloped her, digging in, tearing at her spirit with each whispered reminder of past missteps. She could feel them digging into her mind, clawing at her vulnerability like rotted fingers searching for a way in. She gasped, forcing back the flood of memories that threatened to drown her. Each regret a jagged stone, each failure a whisper questioning her worth as a mother. Stay with me, Lucy! Her voice cracked, breaking through the storm's symphony of despair. You are so much more than what he promises. You have a future, a real one, filled with love, not darkness. Lucy's face was pale, strained by indecision. But he told me I can be strong, I can be powerful. He's lying, sweetheart. Sarah's voice broke through the wind, strong and combative. Power is nothing without love. Look at what he is doing to us. He wants to tear us apart. For an instant, the shadows hesitated, swirling in confusion as the dark grip on Lucy flickered momentarily. Doug growled, his eyes narrowing, frustration cracking the facade of control he held. You fool! He bellowed, raising his arms again as the ground shook with fury. You think love can save you? Look around. You'll lose her. The very earth beneath them split, sending shards of rock cascading into the abyss. Time seemed suspended as the ground tremored below, sending waves of panic through Sarah's heart. Lucy! Just reach out! Sarah yelled, desperation threading every syllable. But then, in a flash, Doug lunged forward, blocking Lucy's path. Your mother is just a failed memory. Don't fall for her tricks. His voice dripped with venom, a deadly promise of darkness laced through with deceit. Caught in the balance of light and shadows, Lucy's face flushed with conflict. Mom, she murmured, fear and confusion mixing in her small voice. She took a hesitant step back, and the shadows surged forward, eager to envelop her. No, no, no! Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she felt the last tether between them dim momentarily. As the darkness clawed around Lucy, she saw a flicker of hesitation in her daughter's eyes. Just like that, the storm intensified, shadows buckling and twisting, forming tendrils that shot toward Sarah, hungry to consume. Lucy! Mom, I'm scared! Lucy screamed, the sound piercing through the howl of the wind. And at that moment, as the void beneath them roared with an insatiable hunger, Sarah realized the shadows weren't just an enemy. They were fed by her own doubts, her own fears that allowed them to thrive. Would she crumble under the weight of her past, or could she harness that fear to save both of them? And as the shadows began to envelop her completely, she wondered was the only way to protect Lucy to confront the darkness within herself? Would that be enough to sever Doug's grip for good? Sarah's breath came in gasps, each inhalation laced with despair as the shadows tightened their grip. They whispered the worst of her mistakes, the moments she failed Lucy, twisting and spiraling around her like a tornado of regrets. She could feel them clouding her mind, relentless waves of doubt surging in to drown her resolve. Stop! Sarah shouted, though the sound seemed feeble against the chaos. The ground beneath them shook in response, impatience echoing through the earth. Doug's laughter rang out, a shrill, mocking sound that cut through the scream of the wind. He reveled in her torment, his cool demeanor almost infuriating against the backdrop of mayhem. "Look at you!" he taunted, arms wide as if to embrace the terror wrapping around them. "You're nothing without your fear. It's delicious, isn't it? You can almost taste it." The shadows lunged at her, desire gleaming in their dark form. They pushed harder, yearning to swallow her whole. Just then, Lucy screamed again, her voice piercing through the whirlwind. "Mom, help me! Please!" That cry snapped something inside Sarah. A surge of adrenaline erupted in her chest, the instinct of a mother overriding the darkness festering in her heart. "No!" she yelled, summoning every ounce of courage. "You won't take her from me!" With every ounce of strength she had left, Sarah anchored herself in the moment. She held on to Lucy's name like a lifeline. "Stay with me, Lucy! Focus on my voice! You're stronger than you know!" The wind screamed in protest as the shadows faltered at her words. They swirled hesitantly, thrown off their course momentarily as if struck by a sudden breeze of light. The ground shifted again, but this time, Sarah used it to center herself. "Mom, I don't want to be afraid anymore." Lucy's voice trembled, but there was a flicker of resolve under the fear. Sarah could see it, the soft glow of her daughter reaching through the darkness like a candle in a storm. "You have the light in you!" Sarah yelled, feeling the fierce pull of maternal love invigorate her. "Let it shine!" Just as the shadows recoiled, Doug's eyes flared with anger, realizing his hold was slipping. "This isn't over!" he roared, desperation creeping into his voice as he thrust his arms forward, unleashing a torrent of darkness that threatened to engulf them both. Urgent instinct kicked in. Sarah stretched out her hand towards Lucy, heart racing as she shouted, "Catch my hand, Lucy! Now!" Lucy hesitated, drawn back by the shadows, yet that small flicker of defiance ignited again. She stepped forward, fighting against the swirling mass clinging to her. "Mom, I'm coming!" Sarah felt the shadows lash out, disoriented by the heat of their bond, yet they lashed violently, determined to pull them apart. Each stinging tendril cut through the air, striking Sarah's skin as she plunged forward, refusing to yield. Then their hands met, fingers entwining in a force of connection that sent shivers through Sarah's body, a warmth almost alien amidst the chaos. With that touch, a shockwave shot through the air. The shadows hissed, swirling wildly as if caught in a maelstrom. Light began to emanate from their clasped hands, bright and relentless, pushing the darkness back. But Doug snarled, furious at their united front. "You think this will save you? You're just delaying the inevitable." "No!" Lucy shouted, her voice rising over the storm. "This is just the beginning." But even as they stood together, gripped in the newfound courage, the earth quaked violently beneath them. The rift roared, its hunger now unquenched, awakening a deeper sense of horror. Darkness seeped from everywhere, threatening to drown out their light. The shadows coiled tighter, sensing the vulnerability behind their resolve. Each second stretched painfully as the shadows screamed and shrieked in protest. Suddenly, an unearthly crack echoed the ground, splitting yet again, sending both Sarah and Lucy teetering precariously on the edge. In that moment, the bond flickered, and for just an instant, doubt returned, a chilling reminder of all that could be lost. What would happen if they fell? Would the darkness claim them? Would Doug win? It wasn't over, not yet. And as the rift howled with greater fury, they found themselves suspended between hope and oblivion, hearts racing as they braced for what might come next. Would they break free together, or was the darkness preparing to swallow them whole? The crack widened beneath them, a gaping maw of despair threatening to devour them whole. Sarah felt her footing slip. It was as if the very ground had turned traitor. Her heart pounded in her chest, each pulse a reminder of everything that was at stake. "Lucy, hold on!" she cried, her voice piercing through the raging storm. The shadows writhed, stretching out fingers of darkness toward her daughter, trying to pull Lucy back into the abyss. Sarah tightened her grip on her child's hand, feeling the steady warmth that flickered against the freezing tendrils. "I'm trying, Mom." "I can't." Lucy's voice broke with fear. "We have to push back," Sarah urged, desperation fueling her words. Think of the light. Remember the times we laughed together. That's our strength. Hold on to that. Lucy bit her lip, determination starting to replace fear. Okay. Let us do it. With a fierce breath, Sarah drew in every joyful memory, every sweet moment, and she shouted, "Let it shine, Lucy! Let it be light!" A sudden flash erupted from their hands, radiating so brightly that it forced the shadows to recoil, hissing like steam escaping a boiling pot. For a brief moment, Sarah felt hope swell within her chest. They were winning. Doug's grin faltered, a flicker of panic in his eyes. But the rift pulsed angrily. "You think this light can save you?" he screamed, bitterness lacing his words. "You're merely stalling the inevitable." The ground beneath them trembled violently, almost as if the earth was alive and fighting back against Doug's darkness. Sarah could feel its pain, its desperate cry for freedom from the weight of despair. "Together," she urged, squeezing Lucy's hand tighter. In their minds, the memories cascaded like a waterfall. Their first day at the park, the way Lucy laughed while chasing bubbles, the color of her smile when she got ice cream. Each recollection sparkled like stars in the inky night of shadows trying to drown them. "Mom!" Lucy shouted, her voice breaking. "I feel it. I can see it. Don't let go!" Sarah yelled, panic creeping back in as the darkness lashed out again, sharper, more aggressive. Their light flickered, and for a moment, Sarah glanced down at the churning abyss below. Terror gripped her heart tighter than the shadows ever could. "If they fell, if they lost, look at me," she demanded, forcing Lucy to meet her gaze, stern but filled with love. "We are stronger than this evil. We will make it." As if hearing her words, a sudden resolve kindled within Lucy. "I want to let go. We want to let him win." With newfound strength, Lucy focused her energy, amplifying the light that streamed from their hands. Doug howled in frustration as his shadows flailed, instinctively knowing they were losing their grip. But then, with a crack loud enough to silence the chaos, the ground beneath began to break apart, creating an ever-widening chasm. The swirling darkness surged, aggressively clawing toward them with desperate zeal, threatening to consume them before their light could ever expand further. "Mom, what do we do?" Lucy gasped, her wide eyes searching for guidance. "Together. We jump." Sarah didn't hesitate. She could either stay and be devoured, or take a leap of faith into the unknown that called out to them. On 3. 1, 2 the shadows writhed, feeling the loss of their hold, panic driving them to lunge desperately. 3. They jumped into the void, but as they leaped, the darkness surged forward, ready to reclaim them. As they plummeted through the blackness, Sarah felt the cold grip of fear wrap around her heart. Was this true freedom, or the ultimate trap? And then, just before the world faded into nothingness, a blinding light erupted around them, illuminating the darkness. What lay ahead? Only the desperate resolve, crumbling below their feet, would show them the way forward into the unknown or into Doug's dark grasp. The light exploded like a supernova, washing over them, and for a moment, Sarah could see nothing but blinding brilliance. It engulfed the chaos, illuminating all the shadows that had once threatened to consume their existence. The darkness recoiled, shrieking in agony, losing its grip with a gasping whimper. As they fell, suspended between worlds, her heart thumped in rhythm with Lucy's fear, hope, and a fierce determination pulsing in harmony. "Together, Lucy!" she shouted, their hands still fused in a bond that no darkness could sever, even as the chaos howled around them. In that very moment, the shadows began to dissolve, dissipating into nothingness. They soared through a corridor of light, a sensation of weightlessness enveloping them, unshackling the burdens they had carried for far too long. Whispers of the past faded, replaced with echoes of their laughter and soft moments shared. "Mom, I can see it!" Lucy exclaimed, wonder brightening her eyes. "There's something ahead." It was a doorway, shimmering with vibrant colors, beckoning them with warmth and promise. Each hue danced, forging an entrance into a world where love conquered fear and all that was dark could melt into light. "Just a little further," Sarah urged, the thrill of hope bursting inside her. The ground tremors felt distant now, as if the world behind was far away, the darkness slipping like sand through their fingers. The doorway loomed closer, radiant and pulsing, and Sarah felt her heart swell. Memories of struggles, of gnashing pain and hopeless waves, began to dissolve like mist in the sunlight. Hell had been waiting with open jaws, yet together they sought the sanctuary of this newfound light. Just as they reached the threshold, a furious roar surged behind them, a desperate cry of darkness wailing in defeat. Doug's voice cried out through the dissipating chaos, a twisted mixture of rage and longing. "You can't escape me. I'll always be a part of you." But it was too late. With every ounce of strength fueled by love, Sarah grasped Lucy's hand tighter, propelling them forward. Bursting through the door, they were enveloped by an embrace of ethereal light that ignited their spirits, sweeping them away from the madness, leaving the echoes of shadowed horrors behind. They landed softly on a vibrant meadow, radiating warmth and a sense of belonging that wrapped around them like a comforting hug. Colors flooded their vision, a kaleidoscope of vibrant greens, yellows, the sun warming their skin, the gentle breeze beckoning a new beginning. Lucy dropped to her knees, gasping for air, and for a moment, they simply stared at one another, breathless. "Did we do it?" Her voice trembled, a whiff of disbelief woven through it. "We did," Sarah breathed, relief washing over her like a tidal wave. Tears of joy streamed down her face. "We made it, Luce. We can start anew." In that moment, every worry, every heartbreak faded. All that lingered was the warmth of love, a bond unshaken by shadows that had once clawed at their hearts. And yet, deep inside, a flicker of doubt lingered. Shadows whispered of fears yet to face, of the echoes of Doug haunting their past, the inkling of a truth left unheard. The weight of what they had overcome felt both freeing and heavy, but here, in this meadow of light, they could choose to leave the past behind. "Mom!" Lucy exclaimed suddenly, her eyes sparkling. "Look!" As Sarah followed her gaze, they saw other figures emerging from the tapestry of light, familiar faces from their past bringing comfort, an army against the darkness, a community of love and understanding that had once been a refuge. "We're not alone anymore," Sarah whispered, hope blooming once more as the realization sank in. The wind picked up, swirling around them, wrapping them as one unified family. This new chapter, birthed from the fires of their past struggles, glittered brighter than the richest gold. Hope filled their hearts as they stepped forward together, supported by this newfound community. "We're going to be okay," she promised, squeezing Lucy's hand. "No shadows can touch us." Here. The meadow shimmered and danced beneath the sun's glow, and as they moved deeper into its promise, they left the darkness behind, firmly grounded in love, embracing their truth without fear. In that new beginning, Sarah realized they were indeed free. And as their laughter mingled with the gentle breeze, she whispered to the universe, "Thank you." This was truly a love story, not the one they had once feared, but one of resilience, rebirth, and an unshakable bond that would see them through anything. Now it was time to embrace the future together. But before the screen fades to black, don't just disappear. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button for us, because it feeds the algorithm and helps this community grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what comes next. Your thoughts matter. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for our storytelling journey.